Now, it's a fact almost everybody is interested in improving themselves, in self-development, and in finding a purpose in life. But for many, that's very difficult to do. But now there is help on the way in the form of a new book called Decoding Potential, written by an extraordinary researcher and entrepreneur. His name is Dr. Robert Flower. In this book, Dr. Flower presents the philosophies and the mechanics for a new social contract, one that combines materialism and spirituality into a functional framework. To learn about it, we sat down with Dr. Flower and had a conversation about the contents of the book and how he developed it.
In my book, I talk about natural intelligence and thinking, quotants. Natural intelligence includes IQ, but it's far greater than IQ. It's what makes us function. It's what makes a lot of people intelligent in a different way. Some might call it their intuitive intelligence. You can call it that. But there is a vast difference between knowing and understanding. When Terry was first released from captivity, we became friends, kindred spirits for that matter. I was able to assist Terry in gaining a foothold in reality at that time. He was very much disconnected with society and everyday functioning.
People define themselves in a lot of different ways, and I think that almost all of those definitions are also limits. Your race is important, your gender is important, your parents are important, those genes that they gave you. But if you define yourself in those ways, you're putting yourself in those boxes. You're limiting yourself. Those are starting points. You're a being in development. You are potential. And if you look at those things about you as descriptions rather than definitions, then you won't put yourself in that box. You'll allow yourself to develop from them, out of them. You won't be stopped by them.
Concerning the restrictors, let me give you a few examples. Like, for instance, with self-deception. I can remember back in the early 70s when Tom Peters first came out with his theory of excellence, his concept of excellence. We went to an informal get-together down New York City, and there were a number of corporations there. And they were talking about excellence and why corporations weren't excelling and what they were not doing and the wrong things they were doing. And there were two fellows there from a very well-known oil company. And every time somebody would say something to the effect that, well, this is what's wrong with corporations today, and it would be directly related to one of the excellence principles, their response was, well, but that doesn't apply to us. See, we're different. These things aren't applicable. So what were they saying? I mean, they were kidding themselves. What they were saying is that we're outside of the rules. We make our own rules. That old company's not around today. It merged into another one twice, I think. You can only deceive yourself so much before it starts backing up on you.
People have images of themselves that they are very, very reluctant to surrender. They think of themselves as good, and therefore they're not egotistical. They don't have a problem with ego. They think of themselves as brave, therefore they can't have a problem with fear. They don't want to recognize those things that are negative in themselves. They see them in other people. They won't accept that what they see is a mirror. That's in me too. You have to, though. You have to accept that. You have to understand that sometimes the things that make us angriest make us angry because we're rejecting them in ourselves.
By virtue of his interest in the natural intelligence concept, it certainly helped him become more grounded. And there are parts of the book that I use Terry as a very large example as to the application of natural intelligence. There are two different segments of the book in which I mentioned Terry. Another example with fear and ignorance is this woman that I worked with. It was necessary for her to step into a position which she had no training, no familiarity with. And it was a very important undertaking. And it was important that she she'd get involved quickly because of her family situation. What I had to do was make her understand that she had the resources, and I pointed out certain qualities that she had internally that were very obvious to me. She pretty much acknowledged that she had them, but the thing was that she didn't have the confidence, the belief. It wasn't there. She was ignorant of the entire process, and she was very fearful. Hey, I'm going to fail. Well, the first thing is you have to learn about fear is, like FDR said, fear not but fear itself. What I ended up doing with her was giving her models to follow, successful models. And we laid them out together. So look, here's an example of how this was handled. Here are the papers. Here's what was said. Here's what was done. Study it. Now, you may never come across this same exact model again, but as long as you get the heck of it and you become it, you focus and you draw this awareness into you so that it's part of your spirit, part of your soul, it will then proliferate into your work events, your everyday processes and procedures. It took time. She made mistakes, but she prevailed. Before long, she was telling supposed experts how to do what she had learned to do. Overcame her fear. Very difficult process. She certainly overcame her ignorance, and the way she did it was studying the model and then going out and searching for other models on her own. Okay, I've got this model down. Let me see if I can learn some variations. I've given lectures over the years about this material. In fact, I've lectured at the United Nations twice on the concept. People think it's huge. They really take to it. And they would like to learn more about it and see it in their daily lives. And I think it needs an interaction for people to really master themselves. How would natural intelligence resolve the issue? By combining the both, the inner and the outer. You take the polarity and you turn it into a magnet. How do you do that? Well, one way of doing it, conceivably, is taking somebody who had worked at the company before in an executive capacity, left, went someplace else and did good there, or was successful there, or trained there, or became a president or CEO there, and bring them back. Now they're coming back with fresh ideas, new concepts, but they're familiar with the culture. Inner, outer, polarity, paradigm shifts. That's how they work. The single most powerful, most consistent principle for corporations to expand their marketplace and their bottom line is something that works as well with individuals, and that is to attack their weaknesses, identify them in their marketplace, within the corporate structure itself, and do whatever they can to fix it, to make it the best they possibly can. Go after the weaknesses. That will expand your markets dramatically and automatically. Again, the principle of development at work. Development being the focal point of the goal, of the purpose, the mission. Awareness is probably one of the keys. What you are aware of, what you're not aware of. What are your patterns of awareness? Where do you lack awareness? Physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually, which are another 4 principles. When you make focusing on your potential the key thing in your life, you're no longer a victim, Doug. You are now a learner. You're now a developer, because you begin to see things as challenges, as issues that need to be overcome, as ways of getting around problems and issues that take you down or berate you. It's more important to focus on potential, and then the second thing is developing the potential.
Dr. Robert Flower on the essence of his new book, Decoding Potential. I'm Doug Llewelyn, reporting from New York.